He hadn't planned on crashing. Crashing implied choice, some kind of free will in the matter, like he woke up and said, "You know what sounds like a riot? Taking a military drop craft and driving it straight into a planetary jungle at twice safe descent velocity." But no, Sergeant Jalen Moreau had absolutely not signed up for that. He had signed up for a milk run recon patrol and maybe some casual planetary surveillance, not for a malfunctioning AI screaming navigational errors in 6 languages while atmospheric plasma licked the hull like a hungry cat. The last thing he remembered before blacking out was the AI saying, "Brace for IMPA," followed by what he hoped was an attempt at gallows humor and not an actual hardware stroke. When he came to, it was dark. And quiet. Too quiet. Which usually meant one of 3 things. 1. He was dead and this was some weirdly budget afterlife. 2. The jungle critters were planning a surprise attack. Or, 3. His auditory nerves had checked out from the sheer embarrassment of how bad the landing was. Turned out, it was none of the above. The jungle was just, watching. "You're awake," said a voice, crisp, vaguely amused, and definitely female. It was not the AI, unless the AI had gone through a personality upgrade while he was unconscious. Jalen blinked and turned his head. A face stared back at him, smooth lavender skin, crystalline eyes, and what appeared to be an organic crown rising out of braided tendrils of silver-white hair. She looked regal in a way that made him instantly aware he was wearing a flight suit soaked in coolant and half a burrito. He croaked. "Hi." She didn't answer right away. Instead, she stared. Eyes wide. Breath short. Jaw slightly trembling, as though she'd seen a ghost, or worse, an ex at a wedding. Then she whispered it. "This can't be." He felt an uncomfortable tingle crawl down his spine. Not because of her words. No, it was the 3 armored figures that materialized behind her, holding very real and very sharp energy spears pointed directly at his various non-essential, but dearly beloved, organs. "Look," he said, sitting up slowly, hands raised, "I don't know what I did, but if this is about the landing, I promise, it looked worse than it was. Except the part where I exploded that tree. That was, kind of bad." The guards did not laugh. One even tightened his grip. The woman, no, not just a woman, now that he could see the detail. She was wearing ceremonial regalia, intricate latticework etched with starlight symbols that shimmered like microquasars, tilted her head. Still staring. Still, shaking. "You look like him," she said, voice barely audible. "Him who?" Jalen asked. "Because if he owes you money, it really wasn't me. I'm just a guy. Sergeant Jalen Moreau, Coalition Forces, Recon Division. Definitely not a guy who..." He paused, realizing that his charm, which usually worked wonders on low-level customs officials and the occasional robot bartender, was doing absolutely nothing here. "He who destroyed the sky bridges," she whispered. He blinked. "I'm sorry, that sounds important. I don't know what that is, but I promise I haven't destroyed any bridges, sky or otherwise, since college. There was a hoverboard incident, but, look, long story." "You carry his face," she said. "Exactly." Jalen looked around, as if maybe she was talking to someone behind him. "That's flattering. Unless he was hideous, in which case, ouch. Either way, I think we've got a case of mistaken identity. Or maybe doppelgangers are a thing here." She didn't answer. Just stared harder. One of the guards muttered something in a language that sounded like a frog clearing its throat underwater. The Queen nodded slightly. Suddenly, a blue light scanned over Jalen's chest, neck, and face. He yelped, mostly out of reflex. "Okay, consent, people. Ever heard of it? What is that? Facial recognition? DNA? Did I just get biopsied by a flashlight?" No one answered. "Of course." The Queen stepped closer. "You don't remember." "I don't remember what?" he snapped. Getting arrested? Being confused for intergalactic bridge terrorists? Talking to royalty while soaked in burrito guts? She squinted, and for the first time, her lips twitched. A smile. Just a flicker. Maybe she had a sense of humor. There is something different, she said. His eyes were colder. Yours are not. Well, Jalen said, puffing up a little, I am told my eyes are my best feature. You know, when they're not swollen from smoke inhalation or emotional trauma. Silence. Another awkward pause. The guards didn't move. Finally, the Queen exhaled slowly and turned to one of them. Bring him. Oh good, Jalen said, pushing himself to his feet with a wince. This is definitely the beginning of a romantic comedy and not a horrifying sci-fi kidnapping scenario. The guard didn't laugh. He just jabbed the spear forward a few centimeters. I'll walk, thanks, Jalen muttered. No need for stabbing. I bruise artistically. As they led him deeper into the jungle, toward glowing vines, humming stones, and one suspiciously judgmental owl creature that blinked with quantum uncertainty, Jalen's brain scrambled to make sense of what was happening. He'd survived a crash, met a queen who claimed he looked like some ancient planet breaker, and was now being marched through an alien forest that smelled faintly of cinnamon and dread. And yet, somewhere deep down, a part of him buzzed. Not with fear, exactly, but with familiarity. Like he had been here. Or maybe dreamed of it. Maybe in another life. Or another death. The Queen walked beside him, not saying a word. And even though every instinct screamed run, Jalen followed. Because the way she had looked at him, like he was a ghost wrapped in starlight, wasn't something you just walked away from. The ride to the palace wasn't so much a journey as it was a physics experiment in nausea. Jalen had expected a hover skiff. Maybe a decent planetary rover. What he got was a translucent, jellyfish-like orb with seats inside and a propulsion system based entirely on vibrations and hope. He gripped the side rail, trying not to think about whether the walls were pulsing with light or just reacting to his motion sickness. Does this thing have seatbelts? Grav anchors? Barf bags? One of the guards glanced over and handed him what looked like a small, folded plant leaf. Seriously? Jalen muttered. You're giving me a leaf. I'm about to hurl my breakfast and you hand me the interstellar version of a napkin. The Queen, seated across from him in a posture so serene it was offensive, tilted her head. The vessel adjusts to discomfort. If you feel ill, the biome will absorb it. Absorb it? His eyes widened. Like, recycle it? Because I don't want to be responsible for creating sentient throw-up. Her lips pressed together in something dangerously close to a smirk. You're not what I expected. Welcome to my fan club, Jalen said. It's just me and a very confused AI back on the dropship. He thinks I peaked at basic training. The orb continued its smooth, yet inexplicably nauseating, flight through the canopy. The forest shifted around them, the trees giving way to geometric spires that rose from the ground like petrified lightning bolts. Strange orbs of light danced in the upper branches. Some blinked as if recognizing him. One even winked. He pointed at it. Okay, I swear that one flirted with me. They are memory spores, Kilira said, tone thoughtful. They react to neural resonance. They remember fragments of thoughts, moments, impressions. Great. So now my trauma is mood lighting. Fantastic. The orb descended toward a massive crystalline structure that looked like someone had taken a palace, a cathedral, and a circuit board and asked them all to share a body. The platform they landed on shimmered under their feet, rippling like liquid glass. Okay, Jalen said as he stepped off, wobbling slightly. I officially miss gravity. They entered the palace with an entourage of guards, all looking like they were waiting for a reason to stab him. Which he didn't appreciate, because he hadn't even done anything yet. Not in this life, anyway. The hall stretched endlessly, adorned with glowing runes and shifting murals that seemed to follow him as he walked. One of them displayed a man, tall, silver-eyed, grim, with features eerily similar to Jalen's. He stopped walking. "Hey, that guy. That guy looks like me. You see that, right? This isn't just alien pareidolia." Kilira didn't stop walking. "That is the Hollow Star." Jalen stared. "You named him the Hollow Star? That's not foreboding at all. What, was Sir probably gonna destroy the galaxy, taken?" She finally turned to him. "He was once our guardian. Then he shattered the sky bridges and vanished into the void. Some say he was corrupted. Others believe he chose to forget." "Right," Jalen said, fidgeting. "So, total normal guy. Definitely a good lookalike to have. Nothing like being the spitting image of your civilization's most dramatic ex." Kilira didn't smile this time. She studied him. Long enough for Jalen to wonder if she was reading his mind. Or trying to. He briefly thought about space weasels, just to be safe. They arrived at a circular chamber, its ceiling arcing impossibly high, its floor etched with an intricate, pulsating pattern that reminded Jalen of a mandala designed by someone who'd had too much quantum coffee. An old being, gray-skinned, cloaked, eyes glowing like two dying suns, stood in the center. "He returns," the being said. "Okay," Jalen said, holding up a hand. "Can we stop with the returns talk? I've never been here before. I don't do returns. I don't even return library books." The being ignored him. "Naturally." Kilira stepped forward. "High Weave Elder. Begin the resonance." "Excuse me," Jalen said. "Begin the what now?" Two attendants pulled out a device that looked like a harp mated with an MRI machine. They waved him over to it. "No offense," he said, backing up, "but I've seen this movie. I sit in the glowing chair, it zaps me with ancestral trauma, and then I become a weapon of mass destruction. Hard pass." Kilira met his gaze. "If you are not him, the resonance will show it. Can't we just do a blood test? A retinal scan? Maybe a friendly game of 20 questions?" No answer. With a sigh and a theatrical groan, Jalen flopped into the chair. "Fine. But if I wake up speaking in tongues or glowing from places that shouldn't glow, I'm suing." The harp MRI machine hummed to life, threads of light weaving around his chest, his temples, his fingertips. It felt cold. Not temperature-wise. Existence-wise. Then the chamber dimmed. And he was no longer in the room. He stood in space. Not metaphorically. Literally. Floating in a sea of stars, with the pulse of ancient memories beating in his ears. A voice whispered, deep and layered, "You came back." Jalen spun. "Nothing. I didn't go anywhere," he shouted into the void. "I'm not him. I'm just a guy who wanted to fly recon and maybe retire early on Mars with a cat." The stars pulsed. A silver city appeared in the distance, rising out of nothing, built from light and sorrow. Then it cracked. Shattered. Jalen jerked upright in the chair with a gasp, the lights snapping off, the harp thing going quiet. Sweat trickled down his neck. Kilira's face was unreadable. The elder, however, looked mildly constipated with revelation. "The echoes confirm," he said. "He carries the imprint." "Wonderful," Jalen muttered. "Do I get a certificate? Maybe a discount card for existential dread?" Kilira stepped forward. "You remember?" He stared at her. "I don't know what I remember. But I know it wasn't mine." Her eyes softened. "Yet it lives inside you." "Great," he said, rubbing his temples. "So I'm either reincarnated, cloned, or the universe is really bad at face randomization." There was silence again. Thick. Heavy. Cosmic. Then he added, but hey, at least I didn't puke in the jellyfish car. So let's call it a win. He was now officially a walking galactic conspiracy theory. Jalen sat cross-legged on what could best be described as an intelligent carpet, one that changed color based on his mood, or digestion, or maybe just its own dramatic flair. Every time he exhaled, it shimmered into a hopeful violet. When he thought about taxes, it turned gray. The chamber he was given wasn't a cell, technically. It just looked like one. High ceilings, energy walls, and a food delivery system that dropped steaming pods from a small orifice in the ceiling with all the enthusiasm of a disapproving vending machine. He poked one of the pods now. It pulsed. Right, he muttered. Totally not alive. Definitely won't scream if I bite it. He took a cautious nibble. It tasted like mint, regret, and possibly mushroom. Better than rations, he admitted. From somewhere behind the energy wall came a high-pitched chirp. Then a squeak. Then what could only be described as an alien giggle. I know you're watching me, he called. And if you are, I demand a towel. And maybe a cup of something warm and not sentient. No response. Typical. Not even a welcome basket. Some ancient memory god I turned out to be. He rubbed his face and lay back, staring at the ceiling, which promptly displayed a kaleidoscope of stars. It was calming, if you ignored the occasional flare that looked suspiciously like someone's exploding memory. Kilira had told him to rest. That they needed time to analyze the resonance. Which, as far as Jalen could tell, meant they'd spend a few hours debating whether he was a threat, a miracle, or just really unlucky in the cosmic face lottery. He must have dozed off, because when he opened his eyes, the room had dimmed and a very tall figure stood on the other side of the wall, staring at him like he was a particularly puzzling crossword puzzle. You're not her, he said, blinking. No, the figure replied, voice deep and smooth. I am Marshal Threx. Ah. Title or first name? Yes. Jalen sat up slowly. Cool. That's not ominous. Threx was built like a stone tower with opinions. His armor gleamed like frozen oil, and a series of glowing emblems floated above his shoulders in defiance of gravity and common sense. I have been tasked with evaluating your status. Let me help you, Jalen said, raising a hand. Status, confused, hungry, maybe developing a small crush on your queen, and entirely unwilling to participate in galactic messianism. Threx didn't blink. He probably didn't need to. You carry the imprint of the hollow star. That makes you dangerous. Only to myself. And sometimes to toasters. You joke. I panic. Threx's gaze narrowed. You are either his shadow, or his mistake. Well, that's inspiring, Jalen said. Tell me, do you give pep talks to your troops, or just traumatize them into obedience? The energy wall flickered for a moment. Just a blip. Enough for Jalen to raise an eyebrow. Was that a test? Threx didn't answer. Okay, Jalen said, leaning forward, look, I don't know who this hollow star was. But I'm not him. I don't have his memories. I don't want his job. And I definitely don't want his enemies. Yet they will come, Threx said. And when they do, what will you be? Jalen hesitated. Not because he didn't have an answer. But because his gut offered two conflicting ones, a soldier, and something else. I'll be the guy who survives, he said finally. And maybe gets a decent meal, if the universe is feeling generous. Threx stared a moment longer. Then turned without a word and vanished down the corridor. Well, that wasn't ominous at all, Jalen muttered. Super casual. Totally not threatening. Great bedside manner. Hours passed. Or what he assumed were hours. Time was funny here. The stars on the ceiling shifted with moods, dreams, or maybe planetary taxes, he hadn't figured out the system yet. When Kalira finally appeared, it was sudden. She stepped into the chamber with the elegance of someone used to gravity bending out of politeness. "You're in a good mood," he said, noting the lack of guards. "I have news," she said. "Is it that I'm secretly a celestial pastry?" "No." "Shame." She stepped closer. "The resonance is not complete." "Wait, what?" "I did the chair. I glowed. I hallucinated a silver city and probably screamed in my sleep. That felt pretty complete to me." Kalira smiled faintly. "Those were fragments. Echoes. We need the source. Do I even want to know what that means?" "There's a vault," she said. "Far beneath the palace. Sealed. Only the hollow star could open it. His imprint may be the key. And you think I can open it? We must know. One way or another." Jalen sighed. "Can I at least finish my suspicious leaf dinner first?" She tilted her head. "You may take it with you." And so, still holding his half-eaten flavor pod and accompanied by a queen with a galaxy's worth of secrets, Jalen descended into the depths of a palace that hummed with old power and older regret. He didn't know what he'd find. A truth, maybe. A lie. A weapon. Or something worse. A memory he couldn't return. The elevator had no buttons. No controls. No floor indicators. No music. Just a platform suspended in a column of golden light, moving downward at the speed of dread. "Let me guess," Jalen said as they descended. "No emergency brakes either." Kalira stood beside him, hands clasped behind her back, utterly composed. "The descent is calibrated to the user's neural rhythm." "Ah," Jalen said. "So if I panic, it goes faster." "If you panic," she said, eyes forward, "it sings." "Wait, what?" A moment of silence. Then a faint hum, melodic, haunting, suspiciously close to his grandmother's lullaby, whispered through the air. Jalen cleared his throat. "Okay, that's creepy. Also, mildly insulting. I'd prefer jazz." Kalira glanced at him. "The vault adapts to memory patterns. It is not meant to comfort." "Well, it's doing a great job so far," he muttered. "I feel so aggressively uncomforted I might break into interpretive dance." The light dimmed as they reached the bottom. The platform came to rest on what looked like an impossibly smooth disk of obsidian, etched with lines that pulsed like sleeping veins. Before them stood a door, or the suggestion of one. No handles. No seams. Just a vast arc of crystal embedded into the wall, glittering like frozen lightning. Jalen approached cautiously. "So, do I knock, or does it scan my soul for coupons?" Kalira stepped back. "Place your hand on the center. It will respond, or it will not." He looked at her. "That's not a lot of middle ground." She didn't blink. "No." "Alrighty," he sighed, cracking his knuckles. "Let's see if I'm the chosen one or just a guy with really bad luck and handsome bone structure." He placed his hand on the surface. Nothing happened. Then everything did. Light surged around his fingers, spiraling up his arm, whispering across his skin in tendrils of warmth and static. The air thickened. The room blinked. For a split second, Jalen wasn't there anymore. He was standing on a shattered balcony, stars bleeding across the sky, someone screaming his name in a voice full of betrayal. He gasped and yanked his hand back. The door split. Not with a sound. Not with force. It simply ceased to be a door and became an invitation. Kalira stepped forward. Her voice, soft now. "It recognizes you." "Yeah," Jalen said, heart pounding. "I'm so happy I could throw up." Inside, the vault was silent. Airless. But not dead. Rows of crystalline slabs lined the walls, each glowing faintly, each holding a sliver of memory. Kilira led him to the center where a pedestal rose, slow and deliberate, from the floor. On it hovered a sphere. Small, silver, humming with a rhythm he felt more than heard. The last memory, she said. The final echo of the hollow star before he disappeared. Jalen frowned. So, we're just going to play it? No safety measures? No popcorn? Kilira lifted a brow. You may refuse. Oh no, he said. I've already touched the magic door and emotionally bonded with a murder ball. Let's see how deep the rabbit hole goes. He reached for the sphere. It flared. Then everything dissolved. He was someone else. He stood on a cliff of burning stone, overlooking a battlefield of stars. Ships screamed overhead, massive and broken, fire trailing behind them like dying comets. Beside him stood Kilira. Not the one he knew, this one wore armor laced with solar metal, her eyes full of war and something dangerously close to love. We're out of time, she said. He, the hollow star *, turned to her. I can contain it. But not as I am. You'll lose yourself. His voice, not Jalen's, said, then find me again. He stepped forward. Opened his arms. The sky cracked. Jalen stumbled backward, falling out of the vision like a man flung from a dream. Kilira was staring at him, face pale. You saw it. I was it, he breathed. He did it. He took something. Contained it. A plague? Synox, she whispered. A mind virus that devours identity. He bound it to himself. Then vanished. Jalen sat down hard on the pedestal. So, great. I'm a recycled hero with a mental time bomb. Neat. You are not him, she said, carefully. But you carry what remains. Cool, 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 he muttered. So, when do I start glowing and speaking in tongues? Kilira didn't answer. From deeper in the vault, a new light blinked. Soft. Pale blue. A console activated. Ancient. Dustless. Jalen stood. That wasn't glowing before. Kilira frowned. It should not respond. Not after all this time. Well, Jalen said, walking toward it. Maybe it just missed me. The screen pulsed to life. A single phrase appeared, in symbols both alien and painfully familiar. You are not alone. Jalen stared. Then sighed. Well, that's not ominous at all. They gave him a translator. Not a tiny implant behind the ear or a slick neural patch. No, that would have been reasonable. Instead, someone in the palace handed Jalen a long, worm-shaped creature in a jar and said, place it near your throat. It will bond. He had stared at it for a full minute. Then at the jar. Then back at the creature. Then back at the very serious-faced assistant. You know, he said, voice tight, I've had some weird days lately. Met a psychic queen. Bonded with a memory orb. Possibly reactivated as a reincarnated apocalypse. But this? He shook the jar. The creature burbled. This is new. This is special. It is the most effective interface, the assistant said. I don't care if it sings karaoke and makes pancakes, Jalen muttered, I am not strapping a squirming sentient sock to my neck. It bonded anyway. He wasn't sure how. 1 minute it was in the jar. The next, it was comfortably settled just beneath his collarbone, whispering to his nervous system like an overly enthusiastic tour guide with boundary issues. The assistant had smiled. You may now understand all languages within a 5,000 Hz comprehension range. Great, Jalen grumbled. Now I can finally chat with angry furniture. They were preparing for travel. Kilira had made the decision without so much as a council vote or a dramatic monologue. She simply appeared outside his door with a statement. "We're leaving." Jalen blinked. "Leaving where?" "The palace. The core world. The grip of memory." That last one sounds metaphysical and slightly insulting. "We need the original site," she said. "Where the hollow star was last seen. Where the containment began." Jalen crossed his arms. "And let me guess, it's on a haunted planet guarded by screaming spirits, surrounded by a magnetic storm, and filled with traps that activate when you make dad jokes?" She stared. "Oh no," he said. "It's worse than that, isn't it?" They left in a ship that looked like it had been designed by someone who got bored halfway through a dream. The vessel was long, smooth, and mostly invisible to sensors. It also responded to mood. Which meant when Jalen made a sarcastic comment, the lights flickered angrily and the autopilot groaned. "You're sure this thing won't try to murder me in my sleep?" he asked, settling into a seat that shaped itself to his spine with unnerving intimacy. Kilira raised an eyebrow. "Only if you insult its navigation again." "I didn't insult it," he said. "I critiqued it. There's a difference." The ship leapt into fold space, stars blurring into long ribbons, time itself twitching around the edges of perception. Jalen reached for a snack cube and watched it melt into a different flavor mid-bite. "Fold travel messes with taste." Kilira nodded. "Your brain cannot anchor flavor properly while unmoored from linear causality. So if I eat this now," he looked at the cube. "It might taste like chicken, or betrayal." "Both," she said. He ate it anyway. Regretted it immediately. The trip lasted 4 subjective hours, though the translator worm whispered something about 14 real-world days and 6 imaginary ones. Jalen tried not to ask follow-up questions. The destination loomed out of a dark nebula. A planet half consumed by crystallized cloud formations and atmospheric static. Kilira stood behind him. "Velkarin. Last known location of the hollow star." "Looks cozy," Jalen said. "I'm guessing no all-inclusive resorts. The surface is unstable. We'll need to land manually." "Of course we will," he muttered. "Because things are never easy in forgotten apocalyptic memory sites." The ship angled downward. Jalen braced for impact. Instead, they touched down like a whisper. He looked around. "Okay, credit where it's due, that was smooth." The ship responded by purring. He glared at it. "Don't get smug." They stepped out into the ruins of what once might have been a city, now reduced to fragments of glowing architecture buried in glassy sand. Structures hummed with dormant power. Memories echoed faintly, voices without words, names without mouths. Jalen turned to Kilira. "So, we just walk around until something explodes?" "We find the temple," she said. "If anything remains." It didn't take long. The temple was a circular formation partially submerged in what looked like molten crystal. A single pathway remained clear, glowing faintly under their feet as they approached. Jalen squinted. "I feel like I've seen this before." "You have," she said. "In the vision." "Great," he said. "Deja vu and prophetic trauma. My 2 favorite things." Inside the temple, time stuttered. Literally. Jalen walked through the entrance and promptly aged 3 hours. Then de-aged 4 seconds. Then gained a beard. Then lost it. He stumbled back out. "Okay, that's not okay." Kilira handed him a thin strip of metal. "Temporal stabilizer. Wear it around your wrist. You had this the whole time. You didn't ask. Next time, just hand me one before my FaceTime travels." With the stabilizer in place, the temple felt heavy. Not in gravity. In memory. They reached the center. A dais. A circle of empty space. Jalen stepped forward, and the floor lit up beneath him. A hologram bloomed into existence. It was him. Or the hollow star. Dressed in dark armor, face lined with wear, eyes old beyond comprehension. The figure spoke. If you've returned, then you are me. Or close enough. You need to know the truth. Jalen leaned forward. Finally. Something useful. I was not corrupted, the hollow star said. I was volunteered. We needed to trap the Synox somewhere it couldn't spread. So I offered myself. They rewrote my memories, shattered my name, and scattered my echoes across the stars. The image flickered. If you're seeing this, the containment is breaking. Which means it's still inside you. Jalen froze. Kilira stepped closer. We feared this. Oh good, he said. I was worried this trip might not come with existential dread and internalized galactic evil. The hologram faded. In its place, a pulse. A beat. From under the dais, something stirred. And Jalen, for the first time since all this started, felt something new. Not fear. Not confusion. But recognition. As if the part of him that had been lost, had just remembered where it was hiding. The thing under the dais blinked. Not with eyes. With presence. One moment it wasn't there, and the next it very much was. Jalen felt it like a wave of déjà vu mixed with mild heartburn and the unsettling awareness that someone in the room might be trying to rewrite his autobiography using only bad decisions. Did you feel that? He asked, already knowing the answer. Kilira nodded once. It knows you're here. Right, he said. Well, that's mutual. I think I'm developing a psychic rash. The platform beneath him shifted subtly. Not physically, it was more like his memory of standing there rearranged itself, as though the dais had always been slightly tilted and his balance had only just caught up. Then the voice came. Not from the air, but from inside. Not his own, but still familiar. We are awake, ***. Jalen froze. We. Kilira raised her wrist to activate a field pulse, but Jalen stopped her with a glance. No. Let's hear it out. Maybe it just wants to talk. Or write poems. Or open a galactic smoothie franchise. We are containment. We are echo. We are what remains of what should never have been, ***. Jalen took a deep breath. Cool. And here I thought I was just getting heart palpitations from interstellar indigestion. The presence swirled inside him, not malicious, but vast. Like trying to fit a hurricane into a teacup and calling it a sip. Kilira stepped closer. Can you control it? He looked at her. Do I look like I've read the manual? The ground vibrated softly. A ripple passed across the crystal walls, revealing buried murals, images of war, chaos, and a singular figure burning with light, surrounded by countless other silhouettes bending toward him, or fleeing. I think this is the part where the ancient evil inside me offers me power in exchange for dramatic monologues and questionable morality, Jalen said. You jest, ***. Yes, he muttered. That's kind of my thing. The voice twisted into something almost amused. Humor is inefficient, ***. It's also how I process imminent doom. So unless you're offering snacks, I suggest we negotiate terms. The presence pulsed. We are fracture. We are memory. We are not your enemy, ***. Great, Jalen said, wiping his hands on his pants. So what are you? My inner voice with delusions of grandeur. We are what you left behind. We are the bindings. The threads that held the Synox at bay. You are the vessel. The seal. And now, you are also you, ***. Kilira looked at him sharply. What does that mean? Jalen shrugged. I think I'm a Tupperware container for cosmic nightmares. The voice settled like a heavy cloak. The containment will fail. Unless reinforced. You must make the choice. Burn away what remains, or become it, ***. Oh no, Jalen said. I'm not doing a chosen one speech. I've seen those stories. They never end with a vacation and a pension. Kilira reached for his shoulder, grounding him. Jalen. If you can't hold it, if it breaks free. I know, he said. Boom. Screaming stars. Emotional devastation. Galactic Yelp review, 0 stars, would not recommend. The voice faded, leaving only an echo of itself behind. A vibration in the base of his spine. They stepped back out into the sunlight, or what passed for it on Velcarin. The sky above still churned with crystal clouds and the occasional arc of lightning that crackled like impatient static. Well, Jalen said, stretching his arms, that was emotionally healthy. I now know I'm carrying a mental Pandora's box that can maybe talk and possibly wants to redecorate my soul. Kilira gave him a look. You did well. Is that praise? From royalty? I'm adapting, she said, very seriously. He grinned. If you ever start making bad puns, I'll know you're in trouble. They reached the ship without incident, unless you counted Jalen stepping into a puddle of liquid that tried to bond with his shoe and whispered motivational quotes at him. Back aboard, he made a beeline for the galley and poured himself a mug of whatever the ship was passing off as hot caffeine. The drink glowed faintly and tasted like spicy nostalgia. All right, he muttered, cradling the mug, what now? Kilira appeared behind him like a very elegant spectre. Now, we return. The council must know. They're not going to like what they hear, he said. Ancient psychic time bomb says hello, by the way. They will listen. And if they don't? Then, she said, sitting across from him, we make them. He blinked. You're really starting to grow on me. A pause. Then she said, I will take that as humor. You're adapting so fast, he said proudly. Later, when he tried to sleep, the voice returned, not as a threat, but as a whisper. You have always been two things. Now you must choose which one survives, ***. He rolled over, grabbed a pillow, and muttered into it, can I get a third option that involves snacks and personal boundaries? No response. Which, weirdly, was worse.